perhaps you are curious about how I was able to study these authors in the middle of this so strange cultural environment. And well,
Yes.
the reason was that on the one hand, there was a very important private university here in Argentina focused on the on Saint Thomas Aquinas thought, and on the other hand, there was a private how we say a private foundation called Center for the Studies of Liberty, who was a kind of copy of the Foundation for Economic Education in the United States, founded by Alberto Venegas Lynch, the grandfather of Alberto Venegas Lynch's son here in.
Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you. Welcome to the party, pal. This is Fountainhead Forum 228. I'm talking to Gabriel Zanotti. He is a professor of philosophy at the University of CEMA, which is often called, well, in English, it's called the Center for Macroeconomic Studies in Argentina University Institute. It's kind of a free market school in Argentina. So
Yes.
we talked about that on a recent show. So that's a private school, and now we're going to talk about Argentina and Javier Milei and what's going on with the higher education right now. How are you, Gabriel?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me in your TV show.
Yeah, first thing I'd like to ask is, how did you get into philosophy, and how did you end up here? Who are some of your major influences?
Well, when I was a teenager, I had a deep um, how would I say, sense of the relevance of the meaning of life. I was a kind of a Woody Allen teenager.
Yes.
The meaning of life was essential to me, and that's the reason why I began reading classical authors, and then I decided to go to the what you could call in the states the bachelor on philosophy or but our names here in Argentina are different. But I made a bachelor in philosophy, and then I made my PhD in philosophy. Yes, and but this is not the main story. The story is that I was very interested in certain authors that were not in general related here in Argentina. I'm talking
Yes.
about the 80s, and at the same time I was studying, for instance, Saint Thomas Aquinas. I was studying at the same time I was studying Mises and Hayek. So
Yes.
my background was very very strange here in Argentina. Um, you have to take in account that at that time um, Argentina was in a kind of civil war
Yeah.
between the very on the left guerrillas and the Peronist government, and well, that was the 70s, and and perhaps you are curious about how I was able to study these authors in the middle of this so strange cultural environment. And well,
Yes.
the reason was that on the one hand, there was a very important private university here in Argentina focused on Saint Thomas Aquinas thought, and on the other hand, there was a private how we say a private foundation called Center for the Studies of Liberty, who was a kind of copy of the Foundation for Economic Education in the United States, founded by Alberto Venegas Lynch, the grandfather of Alberto Venegas Lynch's son here in Argentina.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and they were,
Without Alberto, there is no Milei. We all have to acknowledge that. Yes.
yes, and at that time they were editing here many books that were edited by the Foundation for Economic Education, and there were unique translations. For example, Henry Hazlitt, Leonard Reed, and of course many little books and articles of Mises and Hayek. And then I began reading the the first the first translations of Mises and Hayek into Spanish that came to Argentina from Unión Editorial. Um, so so even when the political situation in Argentina was very difficult, I was able to read these classical liberal authors.
Yes, there's a lot of good stuff. Gabriel, I'm also hearing that there's actually a great Spanish liberal tradition. I mean, with people like Cervantes or I'm having or some of these other
Well,
people going back to the school of Salamanca.
yes.
Can you tell me anything about the old Spanish liberals and when they were alive and what
Well,
they were writing? I mean, Cervantes, of course, is known for Don Quixote, which is one of the most famous
yes,
novels ever written.
yes, but curiously, that was not my approach.
Yeah.
That is to say, I read directly the translation for classical authors, classical liberal authors. I read Mises, Hayek, Popper, the American Constitution. So the Spanish tradition was something that I studied later.
Yes.
Later, I realized that there were very important thinkers on the late scholastics authors, but they were not my first approach. Um, mm, I I may say that perhaps there were certain Argentinian authors who were very important for me at that time, but
Yeah.
they were not international knowledge, not known. Uh,
Yeah.
but the Spanish tradition was not my approach. Unfortunately, I don't know if this is a
Yeah.
good news or a bad news, but but
Well, yeah, because I've also heard that some of the Spanish liberals even influenced Thomas Jefferson, because most of America's great founding fathers were tri or quad or even quint, even had five languages, and a
mhm,
lot of them also read the original the classics in Greek and Latin,
mhm,
not translations. So I just wanted to
yes.
get at that. Do you think the Austrian School of Economics is necessarily Aristotelian?
No, no. As a matter of fact, Aristotle was a main influence in Menger, in Karl Menger, but then um, Mises Mises was a follower of Max Weber, and Max Weber was influenced by Immanuel Kant. Uh,
Ooh,
the same is with Hayek. Hayek and Mises were, in a way, from an epistemology point of view, they were neo-Kantian.
yeah,
So Aristotle, not so much, and the influence of Mises and Hayek in the Austrian school was so important that the the the, the relation with Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas was not very frequent at that time. Was not very usual at that time. In order to make this relation, you have to go to the people of the Acton Institute. That is to say, you have to read people like Robert Sirico and Sam Webb.
Robert
And
Sirico of the Acton Institute. Yes,
yes, yes. In the Acton Institute, you can read authors that have tried
yes,
to establish a relation between the Thomistic thought and the classical liberal approach. And me myself, have tried to establish a relation between St. Thomas Aquinas anthropology and Mises praxeology, but it was just my approach. I am not saying that Mises was reading St. Thomas Aquinas. I just said, I just wrote in my dissertation, in my PhD dissertation, that Mises praxeology could be read following Aquinas anthropology. But,
Yeah, well, Murray Rothbard didn't think it was an accident that the Austrian school came from a country that is largely Catholic. He thought the fact that the country was largely, reading Aquinas and was because Aquinas is certainly more Aristotelian than Platonist, that might have been an influence on it. It's and as some people pointed out, the Protestant Reformation was really was a rejection of Aquinas in favor of Augustine.
Yes, well, I don't know what's the present status of the debate right now there in the States, but there is a new kind of Thomistic approach who has been reading Augustine again, but I don't know if this has any kind of influence in the Austrian School of Economics. I don't think so. And talking about Rothbard, who is right now famous in Argentina, this is absolutely extraordinary. Talking about Rothbard,
that's great. I'm glad he's famous in Argentina.
Well, I'm 64.
Yes.
Well, the first time I heard about Rothbard, I was a teenager, and I never imagined that Rothbard was going to be known in Argentina. But I don't consider that Javier Milei is a good teacher of ocean economics. but this is a very strange political circumstances. But I was saying that sorry, I was talking about another thing. I just wanted to say that in certain Rothbard's writings, in my humble opinion, there is a little confusion between Saint Thomas Aquinas and the rationalistic view of the natural law theory in the 17th century, Grocio and Pufendorf and etc.
The Russian what view?
They are not the same. They are not the same. What I wanted to say is that Rothbard wants to establish a direct relation between a certain rationalistic approach of the natural law and St. Thomas Aquinas, and in my opinion, this is not accurate. Okay.
Oh yeah. Do you think Milei is more Kantian, Aristotelian, Platonist, or
no?
I mean, he's definitely Austrian, but it's a
no.
What do you think Milei's overall philosophy is here?
No.
It seems like Milei has really learned from a lot of different people, which I can really appreciate.
I think that his case is a little more simple. He didn't study any kind of philosophy. He was just a classical economist.
Yeah.
And in 2015 or 16, he converted into an Austrian economist because he was reading mainly Mises and Rothbard. And Mises Human Action, Rothbard Man, Economy and State. I think that he didn't even study the Hayek. Okay, his conversion into the Austrian school was through Mises and Rothbard, only Mises and Rothbard. Nothing else.
Yeah. Well. I know many times he's also cited Israel Kirzner, who got his PhD under Mises and is still alive. I mean, we got to make that. Milei has got to meet Kirzner. he's in his 90s, but I hope that meeting can happen sometime. Yeah, Israel Kirzner got his PhD under Mises, and he's still.
Well, yes, I met Israel Kirzner, and I talked to him twice. There were very important conversations for me. I don't know if the conversations were important
Yeah.
for him, but for me, it was very important. And of course, my Austrian background is a Kirchnerian background
Yes.
because I consider that Mises and Hayek they both uh, had a very important role in the in the version of the Austrian School of Economics in the 80s. That is to say that the market process approach versus the neoclassical approach. Well, this is the Kirchnerian approach, and this was very important for my approach of the Austrian economics. Yes, but so right now, in a way, I'm a little closer to Peter Bethke. I am not so close to the people of the Mises Institute. I respect them a lot, but I consider that they, their criticisms to Hayek are misleading. I consider that Mises and Hayek are of course they are different authors, but they produce just one research program. That is to say, the market process approach, and not the neoclassical approach to economics. So in a way, right now I feel closer to the people who work with Peter Beck. Yeah.
Peter Becky's done a lot of good stuff over the years. He's a nice guy too. I met him. I met him at FE. I met Kirzner at FE. It was a while back. I don't know who's doing any if there are any Austrians at NYU now. I'm afraid they might all either went somewhere else or gotten or retired. But Kirzner
Well,
was New York University for a long time. But yeah.
well, there are two. Uh, there are two young Argentine economists um, who are working right now a lot in the Austrian macroeconomic approach. One of them is Nicolas Kachanowski, who is working right now in the United States.
Nick, what'd you say? Nick who?
Nicolas Kachanowski. Let me write it to you.
Oh, I think I think I've heard of him. Yeah, is he at the University of Texas El Paso?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
Nicholas
yeah,
Kachanowski. Yeah, I've heard of him. I sent him an email. He didn't hear back from him. So yeah. There's a lot of people who are working with that.
uh,
We're
his father.
Austrians really making the Austrian school is making some inroads. They're definitely. I mean, they're not a majority, but there's definitely more than there were 50 years ago.
Yes,
So
yes, of course. Well, this is an example. Yes.
yeah. I got to ask. What do you have any opinions of Ayn Rand?
Opinions of what? Sorry.
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand. Well, yeah, you can imagine that this is not my way,
Yes.
but um, I, um, I know that there are certain people who are studying Ayn Rand from an academic point of view, and this is okay. But I think that her Aristotelian approach um, uh, was not open to the dialogue with the contemporary philosophers. Um, and of course, I don't consider that in order to be a classical liberal, you have to be an atheist and atheist. Um,
Yeah, Rand
so,
was very passionate. Yeah, Rand was very open
so,
about
so,
being.
so I think that
Yeah.
this is his this is her main obsession and error. you have to deny the existence of God in order to be
Yeah.
a classical liberal. This is a terrible exaggeration or terrible mistake point of view, and unfortunately, even when I know uh, certain people who are objectivists, and they are very good people, but most of them are very fanatics, and the
Yeah.
dialogue with them is almost impossible.
Oh yeah.
So
You know,
and this is a problem that she had in her way of writing. Her way of writing was not open to any dialogue with other authors, and so
yeah. I can see where you're coming from. You know, Gabriel, there's one thing that you have in common with Ayn Rand, and I wonder how much this impacted her worldview. She was a teenager during the Russian Civil War.
uh,
You were a teenager during the Civil War as well.
yes,
It seems to me that Rand was just trying to make sense of what was happening. And
yes,
sometimes when you see those kind of things, you're always trying to make sense of why did this happen. Do you think that, I mean,
yes.
how does it impact you when you grow up as a teenager in a civil war? Because when you're a teenager, you're usually aware of politics.
Hmm.
You know, you're not a little kid. You're usually aware of politics. You usually have opinions, but you're still not, obviously as knowledgeable and as experienced as you are now. How does what what's it like to be a teenager during a civil war in your country?
Well, um, of course, there are many different kind of civil wars. Even
Yeah,
many Argentinians would deny that there was here a civil war. In my opinion, there was between the guerrillas and the military coup of 1976. 76. Um, uh, when I was 13 years old, um, the left guerrilla people they put a bomb on my father's house. So I had the experience of being being a kind of victim of violence, and that was a very important experience to me. I don't know if that was the reason, but uh, since this day on, um, I was always asking to myself, how can it be possible to be living in peace together? How is possible to live in peace? And this is for me the main political question. Uh, uh, what are the conditions for people who are completely different to live together? And and of course that was my, in a way, my way of reading certain classical liberal authors, because they were giving an answer to this question.
yes,
Um, so so um, yes, and even when this kind of violence ended in Argentina, the political history of Argentina has been very violent, in a way. And even when many people say that we, the Argentina and Argentinians, are very kind people because we like to have dinners with friends and these kind of things, uh, our language, our daily way of talking, and our great political differences are very violent in a way. And let me tell you, let me tell you something very important, that given that we are very interested in Javier Milei, the way of talking of Javier Milei is very violent. so I think that he could be a classical liberal because of his readings, but in his way of talking, I'm afraid that he is a little authoritarian leader, and 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 the question is, um, had he won the elections if he hadn't had this way of talking? That's the question. Mm. And I'm afraid of saying to you that probably not. So this is a problem. This is a problem because right now he has been in office 1 year more or less. Well, no, sorry, 10 months.
10 months.
10 months, and he has produced a kind of terrible division between people that follow him and people who is against him, and 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 this is a great problem for the political stability of Argentina. So right now, I don't know if this experiment is going to succeed. And
Well, we certainly don't know what can happen, Gabriel. I mean, I do have to ask myself though, if the peso is still, you can still get about 900 pesos for a dollar, and if Milei hadn't been elected president, would that be 4,000 or 5,000 pesos for a dollar? I mean, a lot of people say, your country was on the way to becoming Venezuela, and clearly, it seems like Argentina is better off now than it was, a year ago.
yes,
I
yes,
Yeah,
but the problem is that
yeah,
the people, who were willing to be Venezuela, they are. Uh, Let me give you an analogy. They are right now in Argentina. They are lock and load. They are waiting for
yeah,
coming back, and
yeah,
and uh, and um,
yeah,
if Javier Milei make certain mistakes, he's going to lose.
yeah.
Yes. So.
There's a yeah.
Hmm,
You mentioned the Acton Institute. I like to remember this quote from Lord Acton, for whom that institute is named, but it says, "At all times, sincere friends of freedom have been rare, and its
hmm,
triumphs have been due to minorities
hmm,
that have prevailed by associating themselves with auxiliaries whose objects often differed from their own.
hmm,
And
hmm.
this association, which is always dangerous,
Yes.
has been sometimes disastrous
Yes.
by giving to opponents just grounds of opposition, and by kindling dispute over the spoils in the hour of success."
Hmm.
There's definitely a risk here. I
Hmm.
don't think I think maybe the greatest accomplishment also is that even people, it's, as you pointed out, even people on the street are reading Rothbard, and I think that's a good thing. It sounds like there's a philosophical re-education taking place. Uh,
Well, um, I really don't know what. Well, there are certain different versions of what was going on in Argentina with Javier Milei.
yeah,
Um, uh, I really don't think that the people of the street have converted into classical liberalism. They were just emotionally close to Javier Milei. Um, but I don't. I really doubt if there is a consensus about certain um, uh, minimal constitutional essentials, and I'm using an expression of John Roth. The constitutional essentials here in Argentina are very weak. I know that right now in the states
yeah,
are very weak too, but
yeah,
But I don't know if you are going to agree, but I may say that perhaps 1 century ago in the United States there were certain consensus about the constitutional essentials, but in Argentina we never had this consensus. Even when our
Yeah.
constitution was written in 1853, and it was a very good classical liberal constitution. But from a cultural point of view, uh, the constitution never was understood. Was never understood. Well, who knows what is going to happen? I am not optimistic. Sorry, there are many people in Argentina who are very optimistic right now.
Yeah.
They are saying that Milei is going to succeed. They are happy, but I have my doubts. Let's see. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens.
Well, and Gabriel, maybe too, is, as one person said to me, I feel like I've heard people like people who are going to reform Argentina before and they ended up not reforming it. Could that be part of the issue? I mean, I agree. I think you always have to have a little, you always have to remember that nobody is a deity or a god. They're still human beings who can make mistakes.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. But but there are different type of mistakes.
Oh,
I would
yes.
like more. I would like more a kind of leader of consensus. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Argentina needs right now a politics of moderation. That is to say, in my humble opinion, you have to go to the moderate people of the traditional political parties in order to make a kind of alliance. You see, but and that would be the condition of a future stability. That is to say, you have an alliance. You need an alliance between the moderate people in all parties, in all political parties. Well, in my humble opinion, Javier Milei is not helping to do that. Okay, um, so that's my concern. Okay, that's my
Yeah.
concern.
I think there's a concern, that maybe his approach isn't. It sounds like to me. What do you think would be the best approach for Milei? And how would I mean,
Well, well, I don't know what's going to happen in the economy.
yeah,
If the macro numbers are okay, perhaps he has a chance. Um, but it's too early to to know what's going to happen. Um, there are many different opinions about the ongoing situation on macroeconomic um, terms. Okay, um, but from a political point of view, I'm sorry to tell you, but that if he keeps being like this, if he insists in his very particular political style,
yeah,
um, I'm sorry to tell you that from a political point of view, he's not going to succeed. He's not going to create a new liberal consensus in Argentina. Um, he's shouting all day. He's insulting all day, even his friends. So even to his friends. So I'm sorry to tell you that I am not optimistic. Um, uh, he, he's shouting, angry all the time. Uh, he believes that there are enemies around him all the time. Uh, Sorry, mm, this is not the kind of leader we need. No.
Well, that is quite interesting.
Mm. I wish I could I could give you more hope for our particular country, but no, I don't know.
Okay, do you think it's possible to be all things to all people? I mean, it seems like we always. I mean, I
Mm, let me give you let me give you an example of what's my concern.
yeah
But this is very this is very delicate. This is very difficult to say, but for instance, I don't know what do you think about your political situation, but in the United States right now, I would like Donald Trump a little more moderate. Okay, Donald Trump who could be able to talk about the American Constitution, the Bill of Rights, these kind of things, a more classical liberal, and and the same feelings I have about Javier Milei. Um, uh, so I would like I would like um, a leader uh, who could, in a way, return to our more classical liberal traditions. But I know this is very difficult. But many people may say to me, "What? This is what you have." Okay, okay, I understand. I understand the point. Let's see. Let's see what happens. I don't know. Yes.
yeah. What do you have any? Is there anybody out in Argentina that you think is a really a good person right now who's promoting these values?
Well, um, there are certain thinkers in the academic field, in the academic life, who are like that, but they don't have any kind of relevance in the political area.
Yep.
Um, uh, so um, uh, there is one guy. I trust him very much. He's a congressman right now. His name is, sorry, uh, Ricardo Lopez Murphy. Sorry, Ricardo.
Ricardo Lopez Murphy. Yeah, I think
Well,
I've heard of him.
yes, and he could have been the moderate leader who could have been a very good advisor to Javier Milei, but they are completely separated. They fight each other. They had a terrible fight.
But
Um,
he's also with the radical civil union,
oh, he's a classical liberal.
the radical
Uh,
civil union, though, and this is a member of Socialist International.
Ricardo Lopez Murphy? No, he's a classical liberal here in
You
Argentina.
said Murphy. You said Ricardo Lopez Murphy.
Yes, Ricardo Lopez Murphy. Bueno, in Argentina we say Ricardo Lopez Murphy with you, but this is not the, the proper pronunciation. But
Ricardo Lopez Murphy.
yes, and but as an example of my concerns, Ricardo Lopez Murphy and Javier Milei had they had a fight, a terrible fight, and they don't talk each other anymore. But he is an example of of a moderate leader or politician in a way. Um,
Well, mhm. But as moderation worked,
well, in Argentina right now, you have you have certain political forces. Um, the people from the previous political party you have the people from the former president uh, um, the former president before Javier Milei, um, and the people from the Peronist party, and in both parties there are moderate people. Um, so so in a way, we would need a kind of dialogue between them in order to have a future. Mm. But mm, but right now we are in a very difficult position. Yes,
yes, we are. Yes, Argentina is in a very difficult position.
that is to say,
Yeah.
where do you find what I am calling moderate people? Um, well, um, there are certain certain people from the Peronist party who are a little closer to the liberal ideas than before. Huh? And there are certain people who came from Mauricio Macri, who was the former president, who are in a way close enough to the classical liberal ideas. And in my humble opinion, you have to make a kind of agreement between them in order to have a common approach. And this is my hope. You have these people in Argentina. Um, uh, the problem is the problem is the following: is Javier Milei the leader who is going to to make these islands? I don't know. You see, but you have good people in Argentina.
Yes. What do you think right now, what's happening? You're in a private school, so what's happening with the melee of auditing the universities isn't really affecting you at all, right?
Well, no, this is right now the typical example of the sorry of the of a politicization of Argentina right now. No, no, Javier Milei is right. You have to take care about the spending in the public universities. He's right, but but of course the people on the left, the people on the left side of the Peronist party, they are taking advantage of this situation in order to say that Millet wants to destroy the public university and these kind of things.
Yes.
In Argentina, Argentina has a very different tradition from the states. In Argentina, the state University of Buenos Aires is a kind of wonderful institution. So the people on the left has taken advantage of the situation in order to say that Milei wants to destroy this university. Um, because Argentina never had a tradition of very good private universities. The more prestigious university in Argentina was the Universidad of Buenos Aires. So the people on the left are are, are, are saying, well, Milei wants to destroy it. Of course, they are wrong. No? But this is a typical example of how chaotic is the situation here. But you have to distinguish. Right now, in the Peronist Party, you have to distinguish between people uh, who came from Nestor and Cristina Kirchner.
Well, Kirchner was a disaster.
Yes, and people who came from the people who were working with Menem, who was the famous Peronist leader from the in the 90s, and they are different. The people from Menem are moderated. The people from the Kirchner are completely extreme on the left. That is, they are pro Venezuela. So we have to distinguish between these different kind of Peronist people.
Yeah.
I think that with the people from Menem, we may have a dialogue. With the people from Christina Kirchner, the dialogue is almost impossible. Okay?
Yes, it is. Yeah, the Kirchners were absolutely horrible. Of course, they're really can't say anything good about them.
Yes.
Well, you know, what do you think you'll ever see a case where the majority of college professors in a country are pro-capitalist instead of being Marxist like they are? I mean, you're in a private school. I assume the situation's
Yes.
better, but
Well, perhaps a little advantage we have here in Argentina is that our universities, in a way, our college, that is to say, the people who are teaching in the undergrad courses and the people who are studying there, they are not so far in the left as the woke situation in the United States. So, so, uh, so even when there are many people who are um, even when there are many people who are pro state interference and interventionism and these kind of things, the situation in the universities is not so terrible. And in the private universities, there are many good people teaching and studying, even when our tradition in researching is not so good, mm, because of lack of resources, of course. Yes, but
yeah. So do you think there's any way we'll get a bunch of capitalists on the universities, or do you think they'll always be like this?
well, um, as I said, there are certain private universities.
Yep.
Mine is one of them,
Hmm.
in which you have a friend, in which you have a kind of friendly environment for classical liberal ideas. But and right now we are trying to educate the younger people, and this is a hope. This is a hope I have. The education of the younger people. Uh, they are very good. Um, I'm teaching all
Yep.
the time kids who are between 17 and 25, and they are reading Mrs. Hayek, Robert, and they are brilliant. And who knows in the future, they could be the political hope for Argentina. Who knows? Who knows? Hmm.
Yeah. Well, this has been very interesting. Where have anything else you want to have anything you want to say before we go?
No, no, I know that from people in the United States, Argentina is very difficult to understand.
Yep.
Um, 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 the- the- the only thing I may say in order to understand Argentina is uh, try to imagine Italy in the forest without sorry, not this way. Try to imagine Italy in the forest with Mussolini not defeated.
Well,
Try to imagine a parallel world in which Mussolini had been in power for many years, uh, and this is Argentina. This is Argentina.
well, I don't know what, I don't see anything that would resemble authoritarian from Millet, but uh, but
Perhaps the key point in Argentina in order to overcome this situation was 1983 when we tried to come back to constitutional democracy. That was the key point. In a way, we are trying to continue this path, okay? But it's very difficult.
yeah, I don't, and I'm kind of like, if not Millet, then who? It's a tough question to ask.
Um, I'm sorry if I didn't give you more hope about Argentina. I
Well,
I
it's
hope to be wrong. Okay, I hope
I,
maybe
I
I'm
try
wrong.
to I try to have unique perspectives on here, and I'd seen you out there, and I knew we had some mutual Facebook friends, so I thought you'd be interesting. And
Okay,
you've been, and there's lots of different interesting people out there who, and I don't think to be a good libertarian you have to accept every libertarian hero. I mean, I'm not particularly fond of John Locke. Uh, some other people I'm not that fond of. It's just, so I don't think we'll have unanimity on people, but it is something, but it's interesting to see what is going to happen with all this. I and to be honest, I'm part of my focus on Argentina is because I really don't have any hope for America anymore. I really don't.
well, I share your feelings in a way.
And
I
I
share your
love
feelings.
South America. Uh, I love the fact that it still seems to be a place where family is valued, and that's important too. So, well,
Yes.
where can we find you out there on the net? You got a blog spot.
Sorry, I was at my.
You have a blog spot site.
Yes, I have. Let me write it to you.
Yeah, I got GZ Zanotti blogspot.com. Yeah, I
Yes.
got that. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, please like my video, subscribe to the channel, go to buy me a coffee to donate
Okay.
to my show, and buy my novel Escape from the Village. Thank you, Gabriel Zanotti. I'm Chris Baker. We're out.